Hey guys, Shay here from Fool on a Journey, and today I am doing a book review of The Indie Spiritualist by Grosso. I don't know that this book is for everybody now. If you're really already sort of deeply on your spiritual path and through your exploration, it may not be as life-changing as it was for me, because when I found it, I hadn't really started yet. I had acknowledged that there was a spiritual hole in my life and that I needed to find something to fill it. And I found this, I believe it was like an Amazon recommendation. Like I had purchased a couple of tarot books, and somehow that led it to thinking that I was looking for New Age books, which, to be fair, I was. And so I just found this on Amazon and bought it. I immediately read it in 2 days as soon as I got it, and then turned around and started again and read it in about 5 days, because I just wanted to feel all of the feelings again, all of the feelings of, yes, someone else has felt the way that I have felt, and yes, it's okay to do whatever the heck you want if it is connecting you to whatever it is you are trying to connect to spiritually, whatever that is for you, whether it's God, or I think he says like God / the oneness / collective consciousness, whatever it is. And he's talking about, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't matter what you do. If you are reaching up to reach higher, if you are reaching higher spiritually, you can do whatever you want to do. As long as you're not hurting people, it works. So quick overview, here is the table of contents. No, just kidding. Okay, so here's the table of contents. If you want to pause and read the chapters, it sort of gives you an idea of what's going on. He does sort of start with where he kind of hopped onto his spiritual path. There's a lot of kind of life anecdote kind of things, but they just resonate so hard with me, which started right here in chapter 3, where he talks about having a religious experience while Eddie Van Halen was in a guitar solo at a Van Halen concert. And when I was reading this chapter, I really had that moment where I was just like, yes, that was a religious moment for me. Those feelings that I get at rock shows when I'm just really feeling and connected to the sounds that are being made, and it's really just this art, and I feel full. That can be a religious experience, and why did I think it couldn't be? And that was just a great way to really get me thinking that, oh, this is going to be big. And then, of course, it definitely was. Calling bullshit on ourselves, he really kind of starts easing you through this idea of shadow work in a very realistic, just look in a mirror, admit your faults, admit when you're afraid kind of way. He's not asking you to run through a bunch of journal prompts. He's just saying, look at yourself in a mirror and be real with who you are. There are quotes at the beginning of all of the chapters, and there are some from some really hilarious people. This one happens to be from Carl Jung, but there are some that are definitely from some funny people. He talks a lot about what is considered mainstream popular spirituality now, and this whole story about this New York Times magazine article, newspaper article about things that you have to look like and buy to be able to do whatever it is that you're doing is crap. And you cannot buy a spiritual experience. I think that had I not really gotten this, I certainly dove into and purchased a ton of tarot decks. If you've seen my collection video, you know how many I have. But it didn't come from a place of I have to have this to be spiritual. I don't have to buy a ton of crystals. I don't have to purchase this specific altar cloth with this specific symbol on it. none of that is actually going to facilitate a spiritual experience. That has to come 100% from me. This is sort of on that same vibe of just the idea of you can do whatever you want and you should be doing whatever you want. And I did kind of just want to read this excerpt so you can sort of hear what he's trying to say. I've come to understand and experience this whole spirituality thing. There's never a time I'm not connected to spirit. Honestly, all bullshit aside, it doesn't matter if I'm some uber yogi or whatever else. You and I are equally as connected to the collective consciousness, regardless of the way we choose to pursue it, because we already are it. That's not just cool cliche saying, but a very sincere truth. So that being said, let's all support one another on our paths, regardless of the differences, okay? And I just really like that tone of it. Just really feels like he's talking to you, and he's just saying, look, you don't have to be this, you don't have to be that, but I'm going to do this. And let's all just be cool with whatever it is that we're doing. And it's just this whole idea of really validating whatever you want to do. And maybe you're beyond that. Maybe you don't need any validation. Maybe you already feel good doing whatever the heck you want to do. But sometimes we doubt, and sometimes we question. And if you're in that place of doubting or questioning, then this book is so good. And here's another excerpt that I just have to read. And again, it's about validation. It was so validating to hear him talk about nurturing the idea that we should do our own thing, and his emphasis on cultivating individuality. He inadvertently described exactly what the indie spiritualist model is all about, which is being unapologetically yourself, honoring your truth and celebrating who you are regardless of what anyone else thinks. What a boring world we'd live in if we were all just clones. And I just love that. I thought that was really, that was just really what I needed to hear at the time. And if you really kind of just need that sort of backup. And this is sort of another example where he goes into sort of that anecdote of just being aware and life awareness. And he's talking about, I caught myself acting like an asshole. And I wasn't an asshole to anyone outwardly, but mentally I was acting like an entitled prick. I realized I was about to have the opportunity to interview a fucking hip-hop legend, someone I'd been a fan of since the early 90s, and I was willing to throw that away because everything wasn't going well. And, you know, putting that into perspective, I was suddenly able to smile at the ridiculousness of how I was thinking about the situation and resign myself to just let it go and play out however it would. I mean, where was my spontaneity? And just those kind of stories and those kind of questions, if that's stuff that you struggle with, this is where it's at. This was such a big thing for me. Whenever I talk about this book with anyone, whenever I mention this to anyone, whenever I tell people that this book is what you need to read, my immediate mention is of the title of this chapter. Jesus, Hitler, Bieber, Slayer, and God. That's powerful in and of itself. Like, just starting there is so good. But what he says right here at the very beginning about God and love is incredible. To say I love Hitler as much as I love Jesus or Justin Bieber, as much as I love Slayer, is not an easy thing to do. The moment I say otherwise, however, I'm coming from a place of duality and separation. Trust me, I still spend plenty of time in that place, though gratefully, it's much less frequent these days. When I lay aside ego conditioning, however, I am able to come to a place of awareness and recognize the shared divinity in Hitler and Justin Bieber as much as in Jesus and Slayer. What people tend to overlook or consciously ignore is that if God is pure love and nothing but, then God doesn't know what hate, separation, and judgment are, because pure love is just that, pure. How can love be pure if stipulations are attached? And that just really gives you the whole idea. Like, that just really sums up what this guy is writing about and what he's trying to get to people. There's tons more going on. There's a lot of other, connectiveness and life stories that he connected to his spiritual awakening. And then right at the end, he gives you ideas for meditations, practices, and some multimedia suggestions, which is books, films, and albums to listen to, which is super cool. So here's sort of just a quick flip through of just some meditation stuff. I don't remember doing a ton of these, but I remember getting to the practice part and loving them. Go to a concert, visit a museum. This acceptance of the rosary as being more than just a Catholic practice was so humongous for me. I'm still saying my rosary, and there was this really long time where I thought I couldn't because it wasn't Catholic anymore, or because I disagreed with the church. And really just having someone say, well, what does that matter? If you get something out of the meditation, why would you not do it? And it's just full of great stuff like that. And if you're looking for that, or if you need that, or if you are missing that, I cannot recommend this book enough. It was so life-changing for me. And again, it could be just when I caught it. It could have just been, it could be that this is sort of same idea is in 100 million other places, and maybe it is. But I found this one and I absolutely loved it. And definitely cannot recommend more. And as always, thanks for watching.